Hey, y'all. Welcome to season 2 of the Reckless Optimist podcast. I'm so glad that you're here. This is a show about hope, strength, perseverance, and resilience. Let's get into it. Hey, everyone. Today on the podcast, we have Georgie. Georgie is coming in from London, England. I love these across the pond interviews. She has the best accent ever. She just celebrated 3 years sober. She is an NPC fit model champion. She's an online coach and someone I really look up to. She has had an amazing fitness transformation. She has such joy when she talks about her life now. It really is an honor to have her on the show. This episode is actually coming out on a very special day to me. April 21st is my sobriety date. I will celebrate 7 years sober on this day. This is also the anniversary of my podcast, which was started April 21st last year. You know, that day, April 21st, 2019, I was on my knees begging for my life, and I never thought that it could turn out like this. As beautiful as it has, makes me teary. Even just thinking about that day, you know, I don't think about what happened that day a lot, but I can still remember the pain that I felt, but I knew that I needed to change. And it truly is an honor to share these stories with you and to connect with these people and to have this passion project. So thank you guys for listening. Let's get into Georgie's story. Hey, everyone. Help me welcome Georgie to the podcast.
Hi, guys.
I'm so excited that you're here.
I'm so excited to be here. I love this. I love just this little, informal chat. I love it.
I know when I messaged you to come on, you were like, I can talk about sobriety all day, any day to anyone that will listen.
I really could. It's one of those subjects that it's like, I don't stumble over myself. I know because it's my experience of it, you know? So it's like, I could talk about it forever. I really could. Happily.
I love your passion for it. I have to tell everyone how I found you. So our mutual friend, Paul runs, if you're on Instagram, he had told me about you because of all of your strength training and your amazing transformation because you are a bodybuilder now. Is that right?
Yes, I am. Yes. So I had my first bodybuilding show last year and I'm now an online fitness coach as well. So that's all stemmed from having gone sober X years ago. And, you know, it's been a bit of a journey. Yeah.
Yeah. You just celebrated 3 years. Is that right?
I did. Yeah. Literally, just under a month ago. Yeah. Just under a month ago was my 3 years, which is crazy because I don't feel like I even count down the time in my head anymore. Do you know, it's just life. It's just normal life.
Yeah.
You must know what I mean. Like it just feels like normal life. But yeah, every time that year does roll around, I'm like, oh, I love it.
Yeah. Do you do anything big to celebrate your milestones?
Do you know what I did for my I think it was my 1 year. I just had something small with my now husband. My second year, my 2 year, I had a party with all of like my close friends, which was really fun. We had a cake. They brought gifts. They didn't have to, but they brought gifts, which was really cute as well. And we had like mocktails and things. And then this year rolled around and I really had all intentions to do something. And it rocked up out of nowhere on me. And I was like, I'm going to be 3 years sober in 2 weeks. Like it just came out of nowhere. So I didn't, but I did see my mum down by the seaside, which was really nice. So I think it's just steadily becoming a little bit more normal, but it's always nice to I use it as a time to anchor myself again, especially on social media, to be like, this is how I became sober. Let me use this as a reason to talk about it a bit more, which I think really resonates with a lot of people, as you probably know. But yeah, don't necessarily celebrate it too much anymore, but just more of using it as a good kind of point to talk about sobriety.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're coming in from London, is that right?
Yes, I am. Yes, I'm actually in Surrey, which is just outside of London, but very close to London.
I want to run the London Marathon one day.
Oh my goodness. Like my husband, I think, has applied to be entered in. I think it's like a ballot, right? So he's applied for it for the last like 6 or 7 years. And every year he doesn't get in. And I'm like, just give up. Just give up.
Just give up. So we're going to start our episode out with a quote like we do each time. And the quote for your episode's a little long, but I love it. This is from a guy named Adam, and he was on my podcast last season. He has a really cool sobriety Instagram page called Sober Traveler. So the quote goes, "Every drink became a gamble, a roll of the dice, a spin of the roulette wheel. I kept believing that this time would be different, that this time I would win, that I could control it, manage it, handle it, like other people seem to so easily. But the truth is, I never won, not once. I only lost in different ways, at different speeds, with different consequences." What does that mean to you?
I couldn't believe that you'd like chosen this quote because it's so, and I'm sure lots of people resonate with it. But for me, and if any of my friends that are listening, they'll know that I was trying to find a hack as to how I could still be addicted to alcohol as a normal functioning human being. It was like, right, I know what I'm going to do. I am going to quit drinking wine. Wine's the problem. That must be what it is. Let me stop that. And then you would just start then having doubles and triples of spirits. And then I'd say to my best friend, I'm going to go out, but what I'm going to do is I'm only going to order a drink when you order a drink, which would then end up me saying to her, are you done yet? Are you done with that drink? Are you done with that drink? Come on, next one. It was, so that's really resonates with me, that it was always going to be the next time. It was always the next time for me that was going to be the time that I cracked the code of how to be a drunk without it ruining my life. Like, and I just couldn't. I quite frankly couldn't, because I was addicted to it, and I just wasn't acknowledging it. So yeah, really resonated with me, that one.
Yeah, I totally relate to everything that you're saying. I did all of the tricks. Well, I'm only going to drink wine. Well, wine is alcohol too,
Yeah.
Yeah. When I read this quote, it's such a visual quote for me. He does such a good job with his writing and his quotes where I like picture, the roulette of it all. But yeah, I think in the beginning, I didn't have as many consequences, but towards the end of my drinking career, every single time was an extremely negative consequence. And it just kept getting worse and worse and worse. And it was terrifying, honestly. And I think the other part that resonated with me in this quote is how everyone else seemed normal, but I wasn't. And that kind of starts this whole like shame spiral. And then you feel like you have this moral failing. But really, drinking is not a moral failing. Drinking is a behavior, right? A quote unquote bad behavior. It's not a moral discourse that's happening. And I think we need to make sure we explain that, because people will get stuck in those shame spirals and stay there forever,
Yeah, so true. No, it's so true. I suppose I haven't ever really thought about it like that from my perspective. I think maybe because I'm earlier on than you are in my sobriety, that maybe I'm still, I'm not in a, I still look back at the Georgie that did drink as a little bit like, I can't look at her like she was, she's terrible. And I do have that a little bit. And it's over the years, I am learning to maybe reflect back on that person as not a different person anymore. And I'm like, that is me. And it was a behavior, rather than trying to disassociate from that person entirely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah, it's
That's a really good perspective that you have. Absolutely. Well, we're super excited to hear your story. So wherever you feel comfortable, just take us back.
So now at the moment I'm 33. Naturally, like everyone else, started drinking in my early 20s. Met my partner when I was around 24, and he plays rugby with a huge bunch of friends, and kind of naturally that became our lives. Was going to this rugby club and drinking with friends, and had lots of friends groups, and really did love my life. And it was so much fun every weekend. We're doing something social, and it's usually around drinking. And I'm sure this sounds very familiar for lots of people. And it kind of just came from there. Next 5 years or so pass, and weekend drinking and going out, and it becomes a little bit too much some days, but it's fine because it was just the weekend and you just move on. And then COVID hit, and I think when I look back now, COVID time was when it started to become it's lockdown. The weekends don't exist anymore, and it's weekdays are fine to drink and this. And then we moved out and we got our own place, and I didn't have a job for a little while, and it was again still probably reaching for drink a little bit too much just to rely on it. And fast forward a couple of years, then we come to 2022, which was my last full year as a drinker, and little did I know. And I just found myself, I was during this time always trying to go to the gym, always trying to diet, and never quite, grasping it. We were gym goers, we'd call ourselves, but for me, it was never on the weekend. It could never get in the way of drinking. It could never get in the way of a social occasion. And 2022 was really when I noticed a lot more that I couldn't drink alone. I had to have someone drinking with me. And that was almost showing me that it was because I was ashamed of it. And I think I knew deep down I had a problem. Was to my partner, why was he not drinking with me? Oh, you're so boring. Why won't you drink with me? And which is just so, toxic looking back on it. But at the time, it was just a coping mechanism for me dealing with the fact that I had so much guilt for it. And then one thing led to another. after a course of terrible months, really, of me just kind of coming to rock bottom again and again and again. I broke my ankle drunk out with a friend, and, that should have been the end, and it wasn't. It was, things and things just carried on. Then I eventually got to the point where I just woke up one day and I was like, I'm just not going to drink. I said initially, I'm going to get through this weekend, and it was get through the weekend without a drink. And me and my partner had a fantastic weekend, and it was really nice. And we actually went to the pub, which is crazy. But we went to the pub to have a 0% drink. So I had my first 0% Prosecco, and I remember taking photos of it and everything. And I was like, I'm so proud of this. And then after that, it was first sober week, wow, tick. First sober month, wow, tick. And ever since then, it's just been tick, tick, tick. And I found that since going sober, I obviously then am a lot healthier, had a lot more energy. And I could get to the gym a lot more. I started to really love going to the gym. I got myself an online coach. I learned loads from them. I've changed coaches amongst the years, learned loads. And then, fast forward, that one was at 2022. So 4 years. And then I've, competed in my first bodybuilding show. I've opened my own business, have my own coaching clients, and, talk to people about sobriety all the time in my DMs, which I love so much. And I love hearing people come back. Like, one girl actually particularly messaged me a little while ago about going sober. And then she messaged me the other day and was like, I'm just about to hit my 100 days sober. And I was like, this is amazing. Like, I love it so much because I know how much that felt, like how amazing that felt. And then that's led me to here now, 3 years sober.
Wow. Amazing, amazing story. I wanted to ask you some questions. A lot of what I'm curious about is how it is over there in England, right? I know for a long time, people didn't really talk about sobriety. It was more, in church basements, quiet. Now in America, that's really becoming a little more normalized, less stigmatized. What about where you are? Is the stigma starting to go away, or do most people drink where you are?
There's definitely been a shift probably since COVID times, where it's a little bit more, it's definitely more accepted to be sober. But there is in Britain a huge pub culture. Like, pubs are on every corner. Everyone likes a drink, and especially when the sun comes out. We've just had a abnormally sunny weekend, and the sun comes out. It's like everyone's rushing to the pub gardens, and you're sitting in the sun and you're ordering a wine. And that is probably the hardest part of going sober for anyone, is that summer socializing, because we only get a few months of nice weather. So we really just go for it. But I think I've seen more of the younger generations in the UK now are starting to actually not drink as much. Like, when I was 16, we were going out, or it's not 16. When I was 18 or so, 19, we were all going out and drinking, and on the weekends going to clubs and things. And clubs have kind of closed down a little bit more. There's a few, but there's not as many. And, you don't get youngsters in the pubs as much anymore, maybe the nicer pubs. But so I think there's a little bit of a shift. I don't know whether that's it being more accepted or there's just less locations to drink at. But I know for me personally, with my friend group and things, so many of my friends don't really drink. Occasionally, they're just not really big, heavy drinkers anymore. Maybe that's an age thing. I don't know.
Yeah, that's super interesting. Did you have any stops and starts prior to that day in February 2023? Did you ever try to go sober? Made it a few weeks? Kind of give us that take.
So I kind of never really wanted to be sober. I don't think I ever really said to myself, I'm going to try, I'm going to do it. But I did, like I said, I did kind of in the back of my head always try and find that hack. And so I was like, right, for my health and so I can have a really healthy weekend, if I've not got any, if I didn't have any occasions on the weekend, I was like, I'm going to have a sober Saturday. And I remember posting on my fitness Instagram at the time, which would have been 500 followers and quite small, and sober Saturday, tick. And I saw that again the other day and I was like, that's crazy that I was like, wow, a sober Saturday. So I was clearly trying to be better. But I don't think I'd ever wanted to be sober because I felt like I was going to be missing out if I was, which I didn't realize. I had no idea how amazing life would be on the other side of sobriety. And I know that probably if anyone were listening that's sober curious, or even just listening out of interest that does drink, and I just never even thought about it. I just thought my life would just be more boring. but it's truly just made me happier in every aspect of my life. Relationships, creativity, business, your brain is just happier.
Yeah, I love that so much. I'm totally nodding my head because I agree. I totally agree with you. That first year, what would you say was the hardest challenge of going sober?
Hardest challenge for me in the first year was, it's a funny one because I didn't really find it too challenging because I loved it so much, because I made it quite fun for myself. But it was a challenge doing things that then I'd realize during them that they were triggering me. So going to a hen do or something, and now I can do it quite ease, really. But that first year, when you are so like tenderly in your sobriety, is so different, because you go there and I knew I was not going to drink. There would be nothing, unless someone pinned me down and poured a drink into my mouth, that it would happen. But doesn't mean that those feelings don't come where you go, oh, it really would be nice to just have a glass of wine in my hands. And things like that were a little bit more difficult. Festivals, sometimes a little bit of a, not even a trigger, a craving. It was like a craving something that would maybe keep me more alert or keep me more awake when it was going into the early hours of the morning if you're at a festival. And that was probably the hardest part for me. And again, though, some people don't choose to go down that route at all. And I think I did throw myself at things that would be considered hard sober. So it's not like it was a surprise, but it was definitely a challenge. But now I'm thankful for it, because I got over those challenges and I can do those things quite easily now.
I had saw on your page where you had wrote, it was a really awesome kind of way to look at sobriety. You had said, treat that first year like a newborn baby.
Yeah.
I love how you said that. Kind of explain to the listeners what you meant.
Yeah, so I love this, and I wish I could remember so I could credit who I got that from. I'm sure it was from a book that I read when I first went sober, but someone said, treat your sobriety like a newborn baby, and meaning protect it. You wouldn't take a newborn baby out to anywhere where you deemed there was a risk at all. You just actually wouldn't even approach the risk. So it's the same kind of thing. If you feel like there is a tiny risk that you might blip in your sobriety, don't go. You protect that, because it's newborn and it will grow. It will turn into a toddler, and it will turn into preteen, and it'll be more hard wearing, and you can give them a little bit of risk, right? But in that first 100 days to a year, treating it like a newborn, where you just don't put it near that risk, right? And that's how I would say it in my head. And like I say, thankfully, I kind of got over the challenges quite well, but definitely if there was anything that I would have deemed too much of a risk, it would have been an absolute no-go for me.
You had mentioned books. I read like everything in sobriety. I wanted to ask you if there was any books that were really impactful, and also to add to that question, did you do any meetings, any community, any support groups?
So I actually loved, one of the things that when I first went sober, I absolutely absorbed every single form of resource podcast that I could, because I thought they were so fascinating, like learning about other people that had gone sober, and I just loved it. I loved it. And one of the ones I really did love, so there's two of my favorites that I have put on my Instagram, which is Alcohol Explained by, is it William Porter, I think his name is? And that's really fascinating from the science perspective of actually what alcohol does to our bodies and our minds, and the addiction side of it. Just absolutely fascinating. And then on the other side was, Sunshine Warm Sober. That was another one which I believe, gosh, it's a few years ago now that I've read it, but that definitely resonated with me from her talking about it from a perspective of, she loved wine and she loved going out, and this was how she became sober, and all the things she would tell herself to convince herself that she was an okay drinker. It's like, I'm not an alcoholic. Christ, look at me. I'm fine. It was, those were two of my favorites. We also have Alcoholics Anonymous in the UK. So I signed up to go to one meet, and I had asked my best friend to come with me, and I didn't think I needed it. I'd already done a week sober and I was kind of pretty confident, but I thought I'll go see if I like it. And funnily enough, we went and we couldn't find it. We couldn't find the place. So after 15 minutes going by, I thought, I don't want to walk into this meeting too late, and we didn't go. And thankfully, here we are. I'm still 3 years sober. But the one thing that I do take from that is how open they are about you bringing someone with you. And I think that's a really important thing I've said to other people before is, if you ever want to go to an AA or an NA, any of these meetings, you can bring your friend with you. You can bring your partner with you. Then they're not going to turn them away at the door. They're going to allow you to bring someone that makes you comfortable. So that's really, really nice to know and comforting to know.
Yeah, that's a great segue to my next question. You had mentioned you had gotten married. does your husband, does he drink? Kind of give us that relationship.
Yeah, so he obviously was a rugby lad when I first met him, so he drank a lot on the weekends, but I don't think he's ever had it in him that he has needed the drink. He's just always just drank because that's just what we do, right? And then, funnily enough, so he kind of eased off of drinking around the time that I went sober. And the funny thing is that he's a beer salesman. So he sells beer for a living. So he works for breweries. He worked for a big London brewery, and then he's just moved to a smaller UK brewery. But he's just, again, he can do that because he's not addicted to alcohol, right? So he will drink one with a client if he has to, and he'll enjoy it, but he doesn't then come home and go, I need a beer or anything like that. So he's been so open to me going sober. I mean, for him, it was life-changing too. In the first, year or so, we really embraced going to like sober bars and things, like dry bars where you could get mocktails or 0% beers, and he would absolutely love all of that with me as well. So yeah, he's obviously a huge, huge fan of it because he would be the one getting the brunt of the drunk Georgie all the time. So yeah, he's good. He's what I would call like a normal drinker, like in my mind, I'm like, that's what I always wanted to be, but never was. So yeah.
We call those normies here in America. I don't know what that's like. If I had a beer, then I was going to go home and have 12 more, or a bottle of vodka. Like, it was never just one,
Yeah, no, it would never be one.
Do you feel like you had to change your identity in order to change your life?
Interesting one. Changing my identity. Yeah, I suppose so, to some extent, because I think my hobby and my identity was a drinker. And truly my passion was drink. Like, even down to when I was picking like posters or artwork to go in the house, I was always drawn to the ones that had like a bottle of wine in it because I thought they were so cute. And I was like, oh, it's so nice because that's what we love, wine, and that's our hobby. And it's just, I realize now that how toxic that was for someone that actually was addicted to alcohol, right? And I think taking that away, it forced the identity to change. And I realized that I am someone that does like a purpose, but my purpose doesn't have to be she knows her wines really well. It can be Georgie who goes to the gym, or Georgie who likes, cinema, or whatever it is that, it could have been. For me, it was gym and it was fitness, which I'm thankful for. So yeah, I think it wasn't a natural change I wanted to make, but at the same time, I didn't know I wanted it,
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your fitness. You have had the most amazing transformation. Everyone go follow Georgie on Instagram because you can see where she started to where she is now, and the muscle definition that you have. I just look at you in awe. I mean, you're a work of art. So I wanted to ask you, how did this come to be? Where did bodybuilding come into it?
Thank you. It's so funny you should say that because I'm a week out from the end of my build right now. So I'm super soft. There's no muscle definition on me. But yeah, so I naturally kind of got more into fitness, started going to the gym a lot more, like I said. And then I just think it was always one of those things that even when I was a drinker, in the back of my head, if I'm going to do something, I want to be obsessed with it. And I could never quite get obsessed with the gym because the drinking was holding me back naturally. It would hold you back physically. Drinking does. It holds it'll stump our progress, right? So I would always I remember sitting at a job years ago before I became sober, and saying to my manager, yeah, I think I'd quite like to be a bodybuilder one day. And him kind of being like, okay, sure. Right, looking at me like, and yeah, I think it was a natural progression for me that the more I became dedicated to the gym and the more it became part of our lives to track our foods and, have our routine every day with going to the gym or our activity or whatever we're doing, that it would be a natural progression for me. So I found my bodybuilding coach, and she really supported me to step on stage for the first time last year, which was absolutely incredible. Really, really loved it. It was definitely tough. It's incredibly tough. The prep itself, which is the diet beforehand, is really difficult, but it's kind of all kind of worth it, especially if you're someone that, again, you do get a lot of bodybuilders that have come from being addicts in some way or shape or form. You get a lot of them because you just have that addictive, obsessive personality. And it's great that you can then throw yourself into something like bodybuilding and get obsessed with it, because there's so much to it. There's incredible athletes you can look up to. There's so much to learn. There's so much you can do with your own physique and so much ceiling to grow, you know? So yeah, that's kind of led me to where I am now. And then I'm going to be competing again this year. And I'll be going abroad to compete as well, which is really exciting. So yeah, that's kind of where I am now with bodybuilding.
Yeah. You've tapped into what a lot of people should do if they're newly in sobriety is a hobby, like get a hobby, get something that you have a passion for. Obviously, it's going to look different for every single person, but something that you can put all that mental energy that you put towards drinking towards something else. And it can really keep you in a straight line, because that first year is so hard. Not a lot of people will make it into long-term sobriety.
Yeah.
So hobbies is a huge one. I wanted to ask you about the bodybuilding. What was harder, prep or the first year of sobriety?
Oh my gosh, prep. Absolutely prep. For sure. The first year of sobriety was, like I say, I loved it. I really did. It was challenging, but I loved it. I went on a hen do whilst on prep with my best friend. I went to her wedding whilst on prep. I did festivals on prep. And I'm telling you, being sober at a festival is so much easier, because a few years ago, I could just fill my time with eating fun treats. And then when you take away, she doesn't drink and she can't eat the treats at a festival, I'm like, I'm just here to dance with my water. So yeah, it's definitely harder, but the rewards, it's delayed gratification. You know, it takes 20 weeks, let's say, or, 17 to 20 weeks to prep. And then when you get to the end, and I actually won my show, which was incredible for the first show. And it was just, but even if I hadn't, it would have been incredible still, because stepping on stage and doing something that you think, I can't believe that's me up there in that sparkly bikini. I cannot believe that's me.
I wanted to ask you, you bring up a really good point. What's the timeline for, you'd mentioned, because I'm new, I don't know anything about bodybuilding. Is there, you mentioned a build phase and then a prep phase, like kind of give us the time frame if someone was curious about competing.
Sure. So to be fair, if anyone was listening that was quite interested, I would say the best thing that you can do is speak with a coach. So speak with a bodybuilding coach, because they will give you an idea of, because there's so many different categories as well for men and women, starting from less muscle to, the open bodybuilders who are absolutely stacked. So they would look at you and understand your experience and go, oh, you might be really suited to this category or this category. And depending on whether you've been a gym goer before, whether you've maybe built some muscle, you might be able to just go straight from nothingness, as in no bodybuilding coaching before, straight into a prep if you've got enough muscle definition. But most people, if they start off, tend to go into more of a build first. So this would be where you're looking at muscle growth. So you'd sit at maybe maintenance or surplus calories, a slight surplus. And that's going to be to optimize muscle growth the best you can. So making sure you're working to failure in the gym, you're working to a program that's been given to you by a coach that is specialized to the category that you're looking for. So for example, I compete in Fit Model, where they're looking for a kind of like V shape up top, and then they want glutes, but not too much. So you got to be like nicely balanced, and it's kind of like fitness model look, right? So front of a magazine look is what they want. So I focus my training a lot on my shoulders, my lats to create the V, and then glutes. Lots of glutes, a little bit of quads, because that's where I'm lacking too. But again, some people may, others may not. So again, it depends on the category you're going into, that you might just be able to go straight into a prep and then go and compete. But like I say, you probably would have to go into a build, focus on building those areas first. And a build can be anything from, some people might even just do 3 months, but maybe let's say 6 months through to years even. But I've just done mine's been about 8 or 9 months now, maybe 8 months of a build since my last show. And then my prep will then sit at around, I think I'm about 21 weeks of prep. But some people can prep in 12 weeks. It kind of, again, depends on how much fat you've got on your body too, how much you need to shed. But yeah, so there's lots of different timelines, but usually it's like build and prep. There's like kind of two kind of main categories of phase that you would be in.
Yeah, that's so interesting, the time frame, because it's a lot longer than I had initially thought. Like you're talking over a year to prepare for a show. Because I'm a runner, right? So running is they're typically like 12-week training blocks. These are much longer training blocks,
For sure. And I think this is the thing that you see a lot of it if you're in the bodybuilding kind of algorithm on Instagram, let's say. You see a lot of people saying like the quote of, this is bodybuilding, right? So it's like, the whole purpose of it is that you have built muscle that you are then showcasing on stage, built to the standards of a category that they've asked for. And so it is a lot of effort to grow muscle, right? Our body can't grow muscle quickly, especially if you're a natural athlete, especially. So it can be years before you actually even are looking at a physique that fits that category perfectly. And there's other things that play into it, genetics to some points as well. You know, you may be better suited to one category rather than other ones because of how your natural structure is. But overall, like I say, it's bodybuilding, so it's definitely considered more of like a years that you put into this effort. But doesn't mean that people can't be first timers and wake up one morning in January and go, I fancy competing this year. You absolutely can. You know, you have to be sensible with it and find the right coach that's going to lead you in the right way. And if they honestly say to you, if you've got a good coach and they say to you, I think you'd do better off building for a year and then competing next year, you're better off doing that because you're just going to have a better package on show day.
I wanted to ask you what your first competition was like. How many people were there? And do you compete with your age group or do you compete with all ages?
So you can compete with all different ages, basically, but they do have a masters category. But eventually, if you were to, let's say, win a masters category, then someone else wins their open height category, you would end up at the overall together, even if are different ages. Like I may be competing with 21-year-olds. I might also be competing with 47-year-olds. Just depends on whether you win. But mostly for the women's ones, it's height category. Men is like weight categories. And my first competition, I loved it. I really did love it. So it was in Lincoln in the UK, and it was a new venue that the federation had put together, which is really fun. So it was like a first time event. And Mr. Olympia was there, which was incredible. We got to meet him, which was really, really incredible. And my friends and family, the ones that could come, all came, and there was about 13 of them in total, which was crazy. They were so loud in the crowd. I was almost embarrassed. I wasn't. I loved it. But it was really nice. And I did love it. At the time, the whole day, I was super chill, really, really enjoying it, like tottering about in my heels, had my tan on, eating rice cakes with jam on them with salt on top sometimes because you have to get your salt in too. And it was just, doing all of this with all my hair and makeup done. And I loved it. And then I was standing on the side of the stage, looking at the stage next to the other competitors, the other girls that were in my category. And I'm looking at them and I'm going, why are you here, Georgie? Like, why are you doing this? This is like, look at them. Look at them. They look incredible. Look at you. Gosh, you look awful. And my brain was going, this is silly. And I'm like, why am I doing this? And then I walked on stage. I did it. I came back off. And I think I even remember saying to one of the guys who was like the stage hand, like kind of helping, I was like, this is just awful, isn't it? I've embarrassed myself. And he was confused. He was like, no, you're fine. You just went and did your routine and you came off. Like there was nothing wrong with it. And I was like really, really beating myself up about it. And then a couple of minutes go by and you go onto the stage again. And then I beat someone. And I was like, oh, I actually just won that. And then you come off stage and you go back on again. And then I beat someone else. And you think, oh, this is crazy. And then I won, So it was just kind of crazy that it just kind of started off by me going, this is awful. And then I was like, oh, they're picking me. Oh, I'm winning. Oh, I'm standing here holding this shield above my head. It was crazy. And I think that's one thing that I've taken that as a learning for this year massively, that I really, really let that negative self-talk. And it was clearly just nerves and anxiety just getting into my head. But I've never spoken to myself so poorly, I don't think. And it was at the wrong time. And I remember thinking to myself, I've wasted everyone's time to come here. And it was such a horrible thing to say to myself, but I still won. So I did all right. I just think I could do better talking to myself far nicer next time.
Yeah, gosh, what you're saying is so relatable. We're in two different sports, but I know exactly what you mean. I mean, even now, like I'll line up to a race start and look around. And even though I've put in the work, I've put in the training, I will second guess myself every time. Why are you here? You're going to get last place. I think some of that is stepping on a stage or stepping up to the start line of a race is an extreme act of vulnerability.
Yeah.
You can fall, you can embarrass yourself, you could pee your pants. Like, you know what I mean? There's so much that can go wrong. And yeah, that negative self-talk. I love what you talked about, that one that you had experienced that as amazing of a competitor as you are. And that now you realize, okay, the positive self-talk, I really need to work on that. And so I've been doing that in my training runs. And also the other thing is that it's human. Like it's not abnormal that happened,
Yeah, absolutely. And it's crazy, isn't it? Because I think, like you said, like you've experienced it yourself. And I'm sure there was girls that were stood up there next to me thinking exactly the same way. And I hope not. I hope they weren't, because it was so horrible. But I'm sure I am not the only female competitor or competitor at all that has ever stood at the side of that stage and told themselves that they've just wasted 17 weeks of a prep and all these horrible things.
Hmm.
Because we all do it. We all do it, don't we? And like you say, it is just a very human thing that we can tear ourselves apart. Is almost easier than being afraid. And it's okay to
Hmm.
be afraid if we can channel it in the right way. Afraid doesn't necessarily mean we're failing at all.
Yeah, that's very well said. I have one more question before our lightning round. So I know from watching bodybuilding that that takes extreme discipline and extreme motivation. So what do you do on days where you don't feel motivated?
Oh, this is a good question because it's that the age old thing. And I get clients that say this to me too, coaching clients that aren't bodybuilders, but just lifestyle fitness. They go, I'm not motivated. And they're, we've all seen the quotes go around before that it's like, it's not motivation that gets you up. It's got to be dedication. It's got to be a discipline. And it truly does become that, especially in bodybuilding prep. Because if I was motivated, I'll be motivated once a week, probably, on a good day, on a Saturday when the sun is shining, I might be motivated to go to the gym and, pose and do all of the things I needed to do, my mobility. But otherwise it's just discipline because I was doing it because I was stepping on stage and I have to do it. And if I didn't, I'd only be letting myself down by the time it comes around to that stage that I would either not be stepping on the stage or I'd step on the stage and feel like I didn't do enough. So it's that discipline of knowing that your future self is still going to be doing that act. And the only way you're going to get there is by putting the work in, whether you're motivated or not.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really good advice. Well, we have made it to the lightning round of
Ooh.
your show. So these are fun, get to know you questions because the listeners get invested in you after they hear your story. So the first question is, do you have any hidden talents?
I can actually paint. I used to sell my paintings. So yeah, I paint animals.
Really? That's so cool. They say the opposite of depression is expression.
I love
And
that.
so ways to get out of a depressive episode is to create. And I love that. I'm not artsy at all, so I'm very jealous of that talent. That's awesome. Number 2, what is a song that instantly puts you in a good mood?
Oh, I could list so many. Probably right now, a little bit rogue, maybe anything by Korn, to be honest with you.
Okay, a little hardcore. I
Yeah,
love it.
one of my first ever sober gigs was Korn. So that's definitely one
Wow.
that gets me going.
I love that. Number 3, what is the last concert that you've been to?
We went to go see a metal band called Slaughter to Prevail for my birthday. And then a week later, I went to go see Jason Derulo. So make of that what you will.
Yeah, very different artists. That's awesome. Okay, number 4, what would be your last meal?
It would be, I would just want sweet things. I would just want white chocolate cookies, warm with ice cream, vanilla ice cream, maybe some mini eggs on top.
I've seen videos of what girls eat after their competition. Are you someone that goes crazy after your competition?
I try to not. It's really hard to not because you are just like your body is craving food. But I do definitely have a sweet treat afterwards. Unless this year I won't be because I'll have other shows coming up. But that last show, I certainly will be having a cookie at least.
With ice cream.
Yeah, oh yeah, for sure.
Okay, last question, kind of a heavy question. What type of legacy do you hope to leave behind?
I would hope that actually, aside from fitness and sobriety, I actually would really hope that people would maybe learn to be kinder to animals, which is a little bit of a sideways step from where the discussions we've had, but kinder to animals and just kinder to all beings, I think would be what I would want to teach my children and teach my friends and family the most.
I think that's a really good legacy. Absolutely. I can't thank you enough for coming on. You have an extreme joy about you, joyfulness that just exudes. And it's awesome to see, the life that you had before and the life that you're living now. Like you can reinvent yourself, you can recreate yourself. Your book can end up multiple different ways, but the way that your story going now is really inspirational.
Thank you so much, Megan. That's so
Yes,
kind.
yes, yes. Where can people follow you if they're interested in bodybuilding, coaching, or even just, following your sobriety journey?
So my personal fitness Instagram is georgie.lift, which you can follow along on my prep journey this year. And then you can see a little bit more about my coaching on that page, or it's at 13 coaching, which is the word 13 coaching for my fitness coaching, if anyone was interested.
That's awesome. Well, I can't wait to see you just kill everything that you're doing. I will be following along. I'm a fan. I'm a big fan.
Thanks, Megan.
All right, girl, have a good night.
Cheers. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.